Perfect. Thank you. Okay, fantastic. So I'm just going to welcome everybody today. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to turn it right over to Dr. Seelig, since we've got quite a few things on the agenda tonight. So I want to make sure we have time for questions and, to really spend some time on what we have going on tonight. So I turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Louisa. So we have 5 items on the agenda tonight. I will share it really quick so you can all see. Actually, everyone probably has the agenda, right? Do you need me to share it? Yeah, I'll just talk through them.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think we all have it, so.
Okay, so we're just going to start with a little overview of the year ahead and some of the things that we're hoping to touch upon with this committee. And then I'm going to hand off to my colleague, Rich Jalbert, who's going to talk about some of the things that were completed in the last 6 months, really sort of since the summer, not even 6 months, last few months. And then some of the fall projects that we have planned up until the holidays. We have some things planned during the shutdown and thereafter. Then we'll be doing some quick updates on the Danbury Career Academy. I'll be talking about those. There's some updates I'll provide about an HVAC grant that is coming up through the state of Connecticut that we are very hopeful. And Rich will help me talk through some of the ideas that we have for that one. And then lastly, we'll be talking about some of the ongoing issues that we have at the high school, but also, ongoing repairs. John will be talking a little bit about that. Dan will jump in too. So the year ahead, we wanted to sort of take the opportunity to not just use the subcommittee just as a sort of opportunity to kind of talk about things that are broken, but really talk about opportunities ahead. And that's why we wanted to really think about things like the grants that are coming in and, use this group to think creatively about ways to spend that money. But also with the Career Academy now entering phase 1 of construction, we also wanted to think about things like future proofing. There were a few things that came up with respect to technology where, it's just very easy to say, okay, we'll just use the regular basic, internet cabling. And then, we sort of had a second thought about, well, maybe, we should be thinking a bit broader. If it's a Career Academy, maybe the next phases are going to be things like big data and IT, and maybe we should think about future proofing it. So we want to use this group to talk about those things and get a better sense of, what we want to plan for a school. It's, it's not a school for 5 years. It's hopefully a school for 75 years or 100 years. And we want to make sure we're cognizant of that when we're making these initial decisions, because the building will I expect outlive all of us. So that's kind of the way we're thinking about this for the year ahead. And we're excited that everybody will be here to help talk about those things. So, all right, let's jump into the summer projects. Mr. Jalbert, are you there? I see you. I'll share my screen. Welcome. I'll share my screen and you can just give me the signal when you want me to click through. Share screen. Here we go.
Great. Good evening, everyone. If we could go to the next slide. It's a busy summer, starting off with moving out of the Danbury Primary Center in Brookfield. We relocated all the furniture to the home schools of Ellsworth, South Street, and Stadley Ruff. We had done some initial sidewalk at Haystown last year, and we ended up doing most of the sidewalks. There'll be a picture on another slide to show you a before and after. We replaced flooring, and there's a before and after of the Haystown sidewalks. They really needed it.
It looks sharp.
Yeah, we were able to use money from the Alliance Construction Grant to do that work.
Nice job.
Thank you. We replaced flooring in 10 classrooms at Pembroke School with new vinyl tile. The 10 classrooms we picked had all old carpeting in there, and we're really really makes a huge difference. It's a no wax finish, so we don't have to worry about stripping and waxing the floor, just maintaining it and cleaning it. A lot less accidents with custodian stripping and waxing not having to strip and wax the floor, and will give us more time to do other detail cleaning and painting. We replaced flooring in 4 classrooms at South Street School with the same new vinyl tile. Uh, the flooring we put in at Pembroke had a nice neutral gray look. The South Street School, it actually, even though it's vinyl tile, it looked like a wood floor finish, really sharp. We created the enclosed special ed classroom at King Street Primary. And we reorganized and painted office space at 63 Beaverbrook Road. We needed to make space for some additional staff members, so we created more office space. Next slide, please.
Where's those again?
Another thing that we needed to do was convert the auto shop to the at DHS to a band room. We had some help from Public Works on that because we had the auto lifts that needed to be removed. Those, I believe, were repurposed to the Public Works area, and it still a little bit of work to do on it. You know, the flooring isn't ideal, and we could use some sound absorption on there, but we were able to get it done this summer. We relocated registration and early learning into the Ellsworth Annex. They had been temporarily moved to 17 Cottage Street while the Ellsworth Annex project was underway. We also relocated human resources and IT from 63 Beaverbrook Road to 43 Beaverbrook Road. We've sort of run into a issue in the basement of 63 Beaverbrook Road that we're currently dealing with water issues. We've been coordinating the replacement of the DHS gym floor, which is an insurance claim due to a sprinkler pipe break back in Martin Luther King Day. There's a picture on the next page, I believe. It's going to look really nice, and definitely will make a big improvement. Also, we replaced 11 stadium lights at Danbury High School Stadium. We're looking into more long-term solutions for the stadium lights, because it seems like we're replacing 11 to 20 lights every year. We're going to bring out a manufacturer to look at the pricing of LED lights and see what that would cost to do. Next slide, please. There's a few pictures of the Danbury High gym without the finish. We went with a water-based finish. It gives like a nice lighter colored finish than the oil base. Will really brighten up the place, and it gave us an opportunity to, we're putting some new logos down on the floor, you know, the Danbury Hatters. So that should be ready probably around mid-October, if not October 15th, a few days after that.
Yeah, Rich, I actually talked to Chip today. He said he was talking to the guys, and they said the week of the 7th. So we're hopeful they might even come in a couple days early. So maybe you heard something different, but Chip seemed optimistic. So
oh, that's great.
We'll hope for that. Yeah.
Next slide, please. This was some of the in addition to the projects that we did, some of the other stuff that we do on an annual basis: deep cleaning of classrooms, refurbishing, refinishing of gymnasium floors. A few years back, I've had a company come out and do a training session with all the custodians that have wood floors, which are Park Avenue School, Hayes Town, Broadview Middle School, and Danbury High School. So we're able to do that in-house as opposed to there's a lot of other school districts that contract that work out, and we save money doing that. In addition, I feel it gives our custodians a sense of pride because they can look at a nice clean gym floor and say
Mhm.
that they did it.
Yeah.
Annual systems maintenance, mechanicals, indoor air quality. We relocated our share of teachers to different schools throughout the district. Assisting onboarding of new administrators, phones, furniture, etc. We've done our share of, I'll say, logistics this year, and it started with the pandemic of shipping test kits, N95 masks, so we've done our share of moving stuff out and about. And with all the moving we've done over the summer, we've tried to do our best at reusing good furniture. So it's not just sitting in the warehouse, but we're putting it to good use. Transporting centrally received deliveries to schools. The CRC building gets a lot of curriculum related material, and they don't have a good enough size warehouse to store all the stuff that they bring. So we've worked hand in hand with CRC to accept their deliveries. They come sort it out, and then either they'll deliver it or we'll deliver it for them. And then other forward school year planning activities as directed by building principals. We work hand in hand with principals, just thinking down the road as far as their needs. There's a few things on the list that we have that weren't able to budget for this summer, so I'm hoping to budget it for next summer. Morris Street is looking to put up some walls in their media center. South Street had asked to open up a room and put some new walls in, so we're looking at that and putting it, towards our budget items for next year, I'll say. Next slide, please.
Yeah, before we go on, I just want to say, there was a point this summer when there was so much happening in facilities between trying to get the downstairs of the Beaverbrook Center sorted out and just having the repairs done, but while also, having two major offices, our IT office, and then payroll, and then, we had some of the data folks down there. We had a lot of people that were really critical to getting, the school started and making sure everything was up and running. And Rich's guys were just incredible at just helping them get settled. We were using the boardroom there for a little while as sort of a huddle space, kind of a flex workspace. And, and Rich's guys were running around just moving desks and file cabinets and helping people get situated and making sure the printers were in the right place, even temporarily. And then, of course, when they moved down the street to 43, it was just incredible how much they were able to do in the limited amount of time they had, while also doing all this other summer stuff, getting the floors waxed, replacing those floors at Pembroke and Hayes Town, getting the phones up and running for the new hires. It was an incredibly busy summer. So Rich, my hat's off to you and your guys. You were absolutely fantastic. So big summer workload.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, the year ahead, what's coming up?
Yep, we have we're actually meeting a restoration company this Friday to do the remediation of the basement of 63 Beaverbrook Road. And prior to this, we've also done some work. We brought in Connecticut Basement Systems. We put in a patented flooring system that they have that's non-organic. It cannot grow mold on it. We also installed a sub pump and did some water diversion because what was happening was every time we would get a heavy rain, which seems more and more nowadays, the water would flow into the basement. So we've had a few opportunities to test it, and it's working great, keeping the floors dry. So now we can work on the remediation part of it. We're scheduled over the holiday shutdown to install double doors at King Street Premier Media Center to create a safe zone, just to add to our security plan. We're doing the repair of the DHS weight room ceiling over the next month or two. That also received some water damage from the sprinkler pipe break. Special ed classroom overhaul at DHS. Right now, this actually it's special ed offices, and it's one big open area which isn't conducive to private conversations. So we're gonna enclose some areas to make a few private offices out of that. We're also looking at we're currently working with a company to get a design and a price for vestibules at Great Plains School and Haystown School, to chip away at those schools that don't have divided vestibules. Also, Morris Street Media Center partition wall I spoke about earlier. We're looking to see if we can get that done in this year's budget as well.
Is that it? That's it.
I think that's it.
Thank you, Rich. Again, tremendous stuff over the summer, and again, a busy fall. We have all lined up here with some of these projects, and John also on the call here. He helped us get very creative with some of our budgeting, so that we were able to squeeze more projects out of a limited number of dollars. So, between John and Rich, we were able to make some real strides. So, thank you to both of you. All right. So that's the year in review.
Mike, I just wanted to stop and just see if anybody on the committee had any questions for what we've talked about so far.
Just a quick question. The vinyl goods that you're putting down, is it sheet or is it tile?
It's actually called luxury vinyl tile. So it's not a rollout product. It's sort of plank size. You can also, they sell it at Home Depot and Lowe's as well. And I will say it's one step above a typical VCT product.
Yeah, that's great. And the water is great. That's a better product. Wonderful. And I don't know how many people are on your team, but I know that what you've just outlined takes a lot of individuals to coordinate. So I'm not sure how many are on your team, but it's very impressive due with the supply chain issues and the expenses, 30% increases everywhere. So I just want to say thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Michelle.
And Julie, you have a question?
No, it's okay. I already answered myself. Thank you.
Okay, nobody has any other questions or comments before we move on? Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
These maintenance items come out of what budget? Is this the building rental?
No, this is all out of my facilities budget.
Okay.
We have taken money, actually the light replacement for the stadium lights, we are taking out of the rental fund. But most of it was out of my budget.
Okay.
And some out of the Alliance Construction Grant as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. I think all of these projects that Rich and Mike just walked us through were the projects that we had talked through last year, because I kind of remember a lot of these projects that Rich was just speaking to, projects that we were focused on for this school year. And a lot of them, of course, we had to work on over the summer. Our issue, worry, concern is not that we just have one or two. And so for Morris Street Elementary School, as an example, we learned that, not that this was actually new information, but the principal was trying to continue, as she's trying to, like most of our schools across the district, she's fighting for space in her respective building. And so in her library, she's created a zone separate from the library media space, trying to create instructional spaces. And so when Rich is talking about putting up walls, those are some projects that we did not have budgeted, and they're trying to find out if we can squeeze those projects in this year so we don't have to wait an entire year. But if you visited Morris Elementary School, you go to the library, there's an ESL classroom and kind of temporary walls up there, and it's really not an ideal space for instruction or library media space. So those are some of the things that we're dealing with and working with now.
Yeah, we got a lot of those blue kind of folding partitions. I think she's got 2 different spaces she's using them. So when I saw that, and it was loud, I mean, there were kids in the library and she was trying to do the class. It would have been hard for anyone to concentrate in there. So we're gonna really try to prioritize that as one of our projects if we can find the cash.
Mhm. And the work at Beaverbrook is not Kevin redoing his office. It's it's the issues with the water in the basement.
Yeah.
And so there's a rumor out there, believe it or not. And where in the line is South Street School for a vestibule? 'Cause that's been a discussion for a long time.
Yeah, Rich, so we originally started talking about 3 schools, right? It was Haystown, South Street, and Great Plain. And I think South Street has some unique challenges that were making it a much more expensive project. If I recall, the space just isn't quite there. I don't know. Can you speak to that a little bit, Rich?
Sure. Actually, we looked at South Street about 5 years ago with a contractor, and the thought was to change the main entrance so it comes in through the main office. Because right now, the entrance, when somebody comes in, they can dash off to the cafeteria or they could go down the hallway. So we were looking at trying to avoid that with the vestibule, and it was going to be fairly expensive. I want to say 75 to 100,000. There was some site work outside. We're going to take a second look at that and see if there's any other options that make more sense.
Thank you.
I have a
Anybody else?
quick question. Yes. Quick question. I know that you mentioned that you have been relocating individuals and furniture. This will be permanent relocation. Are you done with relocating all this?
With human resources and IT, I believe the long range plan is to they're going to have office space at the Career Academy, or I should say the district office, which would be on the same property as the Career Academy.
So we've signed the relocation, Julie. We've signed a 1-year contract, but quite frankly, not optimistic that we're going to be able to get HRIT back in 63 Beaverbrook. There's possibility, but we don't know. That's why we signed a 1-year contract. So what Rich is alluding to is our offices are supposed to be in the new building when it opens. And, worst case scenario, HR and IT would remain in that building until the new space opens up. But right now, on the lower level of district office, we need that space remediated because it was really deemed unsafe to be populated by our staff. And so the water concerns were creating mold issues on the lower level of the building. And so it just was not safe for those spaces to be occupied. And so what Rich Jobber was talking about was, we had kind of as a multi-layered approach. We had the basement folks come in and address one issue. And so any water that was coming into the building on that side of the building, it was rerouted to be pushed toward the creek, right? And so that was one way of addressing it, but there are still some other issues that have yet to be resolved, that Rich probably could speak to a little bit more detail. And so until we have all of those things remediated and, we're working with the city to kind of get these things done, we had to find another space for our folks to work. All of those people who were downstairs, IT, our data folks were critical to open our schools, and we really couldn't wait any longer.
Okay, Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so just moving on, the next two will be really quick, because we just don't have a whole lot of information. Danbury Career Academy, as you guys all know, in our board meeting 2.5 weeks ago, we gave Antonio the go-ahead to, on the signed off on phase 1 of the construction, which was largely demolition. I've received no further updates on that project at this time. I don't know if you guys have heard anything through the grapevine. But as far as I know, we are still waiting on final word from the city to press go on the project. But it's ready to go, and as soon as Antonio gets the keys, he's going to start. So again, I don't know if anybody has anything else they can share on that front. Moving on, number 4, the Connecticut HVAC grant. This just came out. We learned about it about 2 weeks ago. What we know so far is there's really just been a couple webinars about it. There's going to be money available for us to do some HVAC improvements. We don't know exactly how much we're going to get, but we know that our reimbursement is going to be roughly the same as our other grants, which is about 75%. So we'll have to front about 25% of the project, but the rest we'll be getting in reimbursement. We have a few different ideas about what we want to do with that. Rich and I had talked a little bit about adding air conditioning in some of the buildings. And some of the other things were about air purification systems. But we're really just in the early phases, sort of ideation phases of this project so far. We're setting up a meeting with Antonio and his guys to talk through what they think is basically doable, how much it's going to cost, and then getting some folks in to give us estimates so we can go ahead with the applications. Applications are due up to the state December 1st. So we've got about 7-8 weeks here to put it all together. So we'll hopefully have some more updates in full board sometime in early November.
Sounds good. Any questions from the committee on that grant? No?
One question, how many schools does that cover? Are we focusing on certain ones? What's the reimbursement? Obviously it's going to be a big overhaul on existing construction. So how does that kind of weigh out?
Yeah, I don't know how much we're eligible for yet. We haven't gotten that specific level, and we only know that the reimbursement is 75% because they said it's going to be consistent with the other state grants we've gotten, and that's generally what our reimbursement rate is. Yeah, Rich, I don't know if you've heard anything else about our total amount, but we were sort of ballparking, one elementary school air conditioning system's about $1 million. So, we'll do our best.
Well,
So we would focus on one, I'm sorry.
No,
Would we focus at one school at a time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just don't know how much we're going to be eligible for. So, I mean, if we can get $5 million, we'll go, we'll go like gangbusters. We don't know what the number is going to be. So,
okay. Thank you.
This initial round of grants due December 1st, they've allocated $150 million total, but that's for the whole state of Connecticut, which I don't think is going to go that far. That's why I think we're looking at maybe doing a few of the smaller schools. But I think we want to, be prepared for another round of grants if we don't get anything this round. So we can take advantage of this.
Yeah, it is competitive too, so they might not even pick us. So.
Okay.
All right. Number 5. So ongoing issues, updates. John, did you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the gas line issue at DHS?
And Dan is here too. So there are two things that we're going to give close attention to. There are no plans yet to do anything, but they're on our radar. So we wanted to talk to you about them. And the first one goes back, if you remember, to the beginning of school. And at at the high school, we had a couple occasions where we smelled gas. We had to shut things down. We had an early dismissal one day. We had a couple days where we had to serve cold breakfasts and lunches because we didn't have the gas, and so on. When the city put us back together, they didn't put everything back together. They had to shut off the gas to the chemistry labs, among other places. And that left us in a little bit of a jam. Dan explained it in an email. He could go into it more, but it forced us, in order to continue to deliver the curriculum, to purchasing some portable lab burners and some replacement canisters, but at a pretty good price. After the city said to us, well, we understand the problem, but we're not going to do anything about it until next summer, when we're upgrading science labs anyway. We'll get around to it then. And that's just, we're not finding that acceptable. This isn't like saying, we'll wait to do your sidewalks or something like that. This involves teaching chemistry at the high school, and it's not something we really want to go a whole year in a less than an optimal state. So we talked, and we realized that when the city does the work, they'll certainly contract out to do it. It involves either using the gas company or a licensed plumber to do it, but some type of contract work. And so we thought we'd take a look ourselves at what that might entail with a contractor, get some estimates. And then if it looks like the right thing to do, and we have the timing, go back to the city and ask them to finance it with an additional appropriation into our budget. Because they're not saying they're not going to do it. They're just really saying they don't have time now. And we think they should. So that's going on. Again, no decisions have been reached, but we're gonna look at it carefully because we're just not satisfied with the answer we got. And then the second thing, maybe we'll take any questions after that one, is has to do with bus parking at the high school, particularly in the afternoon. As we've added students there, we've also added buses, but we haven't added more real estate. And if some of you have been there in the afternoon or even the mornings, you see it. We're really cramped in there. We have some concerns about safety. We have some concerns about efficiency. And what we've done is we've had a consultant come in, a company that is expert in what's called pedestrian safety engineering. They were out, I think it was last week, both in the morning and the afternoon. We haven't heard anything back from them. We had some good discussions along with Dan and his staff. There are no easy answers at all. There's a lot of factors that go into opening and closing. What we did find, though, was the consultants were very interested in the lower parking lot by the gym. That's a much bigger area when you look at it with no cars in it during the school day. And they kicked around a lot of ideas there. So it wouldn't surprise me if we get some suggestions back that maybe some redesign there would give some relief to the front of the school. That sounds like something we'd have to budget for next year, but we want you to know that that's something we're giving attention to. Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything into that, to what I said. Did I miss anything, especially on the science curriculum?
Well, it's in speaking to the city, it was a kind of a tough situation because the way projects are funded and done around here, you're looking at a 5 to 6 month project before they get the monies, they get it fixed. So if you're talking, say, 3 months before it's fixed, we're talking in January, how much money do you want to spend coming out of and disruption do you want to the school? Because for them to fix this pipe, they have to go through the cement wall. So, you know, if you're talking this isn't done till February, you might as well wait the other 3-4 months and just do it when the science labs are being done, because the science labs are being done this summer.
Right.
So I don't know what it entails, but when they were talking, Sean Hanley and Antonio were talking to me about it. They were talking about how they have to go through the chase, which it's called. It's like an inside chimney where all the pipes run. They got to go in there, take out that whole entire pipe, reconnect all of the science lines to replace that. I don't think it's an easy project, and I think it's going to be rather expensive. I know having no gas in there is not the best answer for this at all, but I mean, I don't know what the cost of that is. Do you have an idea of how much that would be?
Not yet, but we also don't want to take a chance of a broken promise from the city and it not being done. I don't think the funding is in place even for the science lab upgrades. So maybe this will be just giving ourselves some insurance in case it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I
No
think
easy answers.
I know we discussed these science labs in the spring because they are a part of the accreditation for the high school. I believe that was a part of that, to upgrade the science labs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
And
it is.
And I was under the impression that these were supposed to be done this year. So now it's being pushed off to next year, and I'm wondering why. And now we have additional problems in those labs. And so I'm concerned at where that leaves us another year out. And is that going to push off another year after that? Because I know that we had discussed it with the city, and I think Antonio was on one of our meetings, and he said that it was scheduled for this year, 2022.
It's scheduled. It's been scheduled for this summer coming up, June of
Okay.
23. I've seen the drawings for it. I don't know where they are, like where they are in the process of this. I know they looked for architects already. This is an aggressive project to basically 2.5 floors, because they have to go through what is C3 through the ceiling, C4 to gut every single one, and the main one, not the addition, go through their ceilings to do C5 as well. So it's an aggressive project. They want to do it all in one summer, so we don't lose any of the science labs, because we can't lose any of the science labs. We don't have the space for it. So it's always kind of been on this project to go for the summer of 23. That's how it was written into the report, and it's written into the NEASC report, the 2-year report, as that as well. If we don't get this done, or like a good solid attempt to get it done, we'll be in trouble with NEASC, because they've put a lot of faith in the fact that the city has come in and said, yes, we will, you know, when this has to be fixed, and we've given them timelines. That's with the academy as well. You know, when we just filled out our special report that we had to do because of the accreditation part and put on warning for facilities, that they turned around and, you know, said, okay, this is, and I said, yeah, the city's got, and we put the plans in, we put the academy plans in, you know, and said they're moving forward. So they're pretty good about it, but we'd be in a world of hurt if it gets put off for another summer.
Okay, so 2023 is the absolute last chance we have to get it done. Is that what we're saying?
I mean, I don't know if it's an absolute last chance. Kevin could probably speak more to that, but that's what we've all said. And we're going at it with that. So,
Okay, thank you.
We'll definitely put this top of our list to talk about. We have our next meeting with Antonio and Sean. So.
Yeah, and Louisa, I forgot who raised the point. And I think it was Mike or John who started this off. The city's preference is to do this work, given the nature of the work and how complex the work is. They are requesting to do this work in the summer as initially planned. Our concern is, if you want to call it a concern, is, and I think this is the point John was raising, you know, we need a curriculum solution now. And some of the kind of temporary fixes that we were considering, you know, we've been talking about internally. How safe is it given the nature of the chemistry classes? And so we have some questions about that. But it does not sound like, given complexity of the work, this is something that can be expedited any sooner than the summer, given
Okay.
how disruptive possibly could be.
And the other issue that you can't have is the tables and the cabinets, the countertops. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Jalbert, but they're asbestos related. And anytime you do any type of asbestos
Yeah.
removal, students or children under the age of 18 can't be in the building. We've been through that a couple
You're
of times
correct,
with
Dan.
different things. So they have to, because they're like, just like your house or anywhere else, just because they're redoing these science labs, they have to open up the doors to make them ADA accessible. They have to open up
Mhm.
walls. There's things that they have to do that are going to cause bigger problems than just, hey, let's take out the cabinets and put them back in. And the asbestos was a big one. That has to be cleared in the summer with no students in the building.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Anything
Any other
else?
I was gonna say, if we get that HVAC funding, that might be a great place to implement it, because as you were saying, there's a lot of that concern, the asbestos and, kind of trying to seal off the area. Something
Yeah.
to think about.
I wonder if that would qualify. I can see how to make the argument. I think this is a pretty tight one though, so I have to look at the grant and see if that would pass the bar.
Okay.
I'll take a look.
All right, Mike. What's left?
So the last thing I think would be G building. Last but not least. So I'm trying to remember the last update. I mentioned it, I think, at one of our full boards, either the first or second one of the year. We had a big conversation with Johnson Controls was there. Rich helped me with this one. Johnson Controls, the guy who installed it, the construction company, and we just had a big conversation about trying to get to the bottom of what the issue was. The last two big things that came out of that meeting was there's this system called the BMS, which is a analytic system that helps us understand exactly how the air handlers are working and what pressure they're blowing at and how often and all these types of things. And we needed to get access to that system so that the environmental air company could run some diagnostics on it. So that was actually a little trickier than we thought, because it required giving them access to our network, which raised a few security concerns, but we were able to figure those all out in the last, I think, week and a half. We were able to get everybody access. So now they're monitoring the system, and we're waiting on some feedback. Now, the second thing that was coming out of that meeting is it was recommended that we do a balancing study. And that is actually a much more involved process where they look at, they go up with monitors and they determine how much air is coming out in various parts of the building, and they can see if it's, heavier at the corners or in the center or whatnot. So before they can do that, they have to go in and actually understand the system. So they can make a determination about how it's supposed to be performing and functioning. And then when they actually get their readings, they can make a determination about whether it's meeting standards. So Rich was able to get all that stuff over to them, I think a week or two ago. So they have that now. And we have a quote from the balancing company, which is not cheap. And that's actually something now that we have to talk about with the city, because it's a very costly diagnostic to have done. So Rich, did I leave anything out of that?
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure the last time we met, but we had two compressors fail right at the start of the school year. I think they're in the process of replacing them. They have one replaced, and they might have done the second by now. I'll have to double check. We've also done work with Connecticut Controls to help monitor the system and until the compressors were up and running, make sure that they were getting outside fresh air and make it as comfortable as they could. And the company that designed the HVAC system for G Building, CES Mechanical. We will be getting back in touch with them to see their findings with the diagnostics of, because I think this is the 6th compressor that's failed in this system in the last few years. And the building is only 5 years old. So we're really trying to get to the bottom of all these compressor failures.
Wow.
Are we paying for the replacement of all these compressors?
I believe they're under warranty, but the city is taking care of that.
Okay.
And I believe they ordered a couple extra too, just so they'd have a few on hand. If another one blows, they'll have one they can run up and switch it out. So they're trying to anticipate future ones.
How is the system, like, how is the air quality in the rooms now while we're still waiting for all this stuff? Is it tolerable in there?
Well, one of the problems is that we were getting the outside fresh air, but when it's 80-degree outside fresh air, it doesn't feel all that comfortable. So that's why we brought Connecticut Controls in. Even the tempered air, outside fresh air, they were able to somehow lower the temperature a little bit with that and make it as comfortable as possible. But the air quality was fine.
Ms.
Yeah,
Britton,
Yeah, I haven't been over there in a
I
couple of
think
weeks.
Dan would tell you,
yeah,
his teachers would tell you it was not comfortable at all.
I
Air
think
quality,
you're-
different question, but sorry,
yeah, I
Dan.
mean, I think air quality, there was no, excuse me, there was no air movement. Ms. Britton, you can ask your son. He happened to be in a room that I would happen to walk in. The thing that we found is that when they told us that the blowers were still working, there's 2 units, there's an air handler unit and there's an AC unit was blowing. They weren't, because when the compressor went, it sends a default to the thermostat, which kind of not shorted it out, but puts it in error mode. And then you'd have to go back and constantly reset them to get them going. And that wasn't happening. So you could be in a classroom on one floor on G3 where the temperature is awesome, it's beautiful, air's blowing through, and then you go next door and it's 86 degrees with no air movement, and you cannot open the windows in G Building. So you rely on the air movement to cause any type of relief in there, and it was not for the longest time. There was quite a few teachers who are, as everyone here knows, because they've been to the board, very upset about this, and because they're in a room with no windows and no air with 30 kids, for 75% of the day. So it really caused some problems with the morale over there. It seems to have all been fixed now. The last week, and that was late last week, we got the thank you email from the teachers and stuff like that. And I don't know how the compressors are doing. I imagine they're doing fine, because as the temperature goes, they're not working as hard as they were before. In speaking to the guys that have come and been doing the work, they are looking at the size of the pipe that brings the oil to or from the compressor is not being right, and they're going back to look at that stuff now. But they're out there working on it. It's just not the pace that everyone else would like.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like we'll be okay until, I would say we'll be okay. If we can get, as long as the handler is working properly through the winter, it's bringing fresh, clean air in. That seems to be the big thing. And then, of course, when it heats up again in spring, I don't want to be right back here too. So we're going to stay on this and make sure it gets fixed, because we don't need to be talking about this next May.
Agreed. Any questions from the committee members on G Building? Okay, any questions from board members other than committee members on any of the topics covered tonight?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
I brought this to Kevin's attention a while ago. A couple neighbors brought a concern to me that there was what looked like vandalism at King Street School. I apparently it was a group of WestCon students with temporary spray paint, I guess. So just curious if there's a special approval process that they would have to go through to mark up the the driveway, and also on the concrete sidewalks and the drain there. And I've never heard of temporary spray paint, so how long is that gonna stick around?
Are you asking how long it would, what we'd need to do to get rid of it? Is that?
I mean, temporary spray paint, is it just, how temporary is that?
Mike, I can speak. Our seniors thought it was a fun idea last year to do it up on our front sidewalk. It's temporary spray paint. It's called spray chalk.
Okay,
With rain, 95% of it just goes away.
okay,
And the last 5% of it, we had to go out there with like stiff garage brooms and a little bit of soap and kind of just brushed it off, and it goes away. It fades. Some fades a lot better. Like the white and the pink went really quick. The black stayed around for a little bit longer, but you don't have to go power wash it. I mean, if they want it to go away instantly, they can just go power wash it. But with rain and a little elbow grease, it comes up.
good to know, thanks, Dan.
Thanks. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that one, so I'll follow up. Is it
I have one
KSI or KSP? Where was it?
It was on the KSI side,
Okay.
the round, the circular driveway.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
Thank
real quick, I went to the PTO meeting last night, and Rogers Park, I guess, has a bathroom that is not functioning for the kindergarten. I guess it's been a year. Do we have any idea of like how long that would typically take to fix? Is it on our work order list? Do you know anything about that? It was briefly brought up last night.
Yeah, so Mike, Rich, can you guys just speak in generalities about how work orders, I mean, bathrooms in general, we have a number of work orders across the district. Just
Yeah.
kind of speak to how those things work, elevators, bathrooms, those kind of deals.
Well, I'm looking in my email right now because I got an email from Sean today about bathrooms, but that that wasn't one of them. Yeah,
Was it-
so
Michelle, was it Rogers Park? You said kindergarten. or was it-
Rogers Park, yep, Rogers Park, and I
Rogers
guess.
Park.
the
AIS
kindergarten-
for the kindergarten. It was AIS for the kindergarten.
Oh, was
class.
it AIS?
Sorry to
Oh, okay.
interrupt. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thank you,
I think
Kate.
it was Jade.
Rich, are these on your radar?
Yes, there's a few, I think Pembroke, AAS and Shelter Rock. There's a few bathrooms that they weren't able to fix over the summer, or they broke down at the beginning of the school year and still haven't fixed. And I'm following up with Sean to get an ETA on when he can get those repaired.
So these go through the city, these work orders? They're not
Yes,
district responsibility, they're city responsibilities. Okay, so.
Yep.
So those are the 3 schools that have bathrooms not working.
No, DHS has several.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, there's assorted bathrooms throughout the district. That's why I had to look, because we get occasional updates on different ones, but
Can you get a list together of the
Yeah.
schools, and just so we have an idea how many numbers in bathrooms? I mean, that's one important thing that we should have, is working bathrooms in the schools. So maybe we can get together a list through the district of how many in each school we have that are not functioning.
yep.
So we have an idea.
Especially
Just
for
better to keep track.
kindergarten, they tell you when they have to go. They
Right.
just gotta
Right.
go around the other side of the building and,
Yeah, yeah.
just a problem. So it'd be great.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else tonight? Any other questions, concerns?
Yes, I'm sorry. The same question. How long does it usually take a work order to be, once it's raised, how long does it take to be done?
Yeah. Rich, can you give a ballpark?
It depends, I'll say. If it's something that it's an easy fix. They fix it when they show up to do the work order. There's times that they have to order parts, and depending on what kind of fix it is, for instance, the high school, there's been bathrooms that we've waited several months because they literally have to break into the concrete chase to do the repair. So I guess it depends on the type of a repair that they need to do.
Do we keep
Do
track
we-
of work orders? I'm sorry, Michelle.
No,
You're probably
thank
asking
you.
the same question. Yeah, are we keeping track of these work orders by school, or do we have any way of knowing what we're sending in?
Well, the public buildings recently started a new work order system called School Dude or Dude now it's called. And we have access to put the work orders in.
Mhm.
We don't from the Board of Ed side, we don't have access to really run a report. I'm working with Sean Hanley and Antonio on that to be able to run a report by school or by bathroom or by how many days outstanding the work order is. I think that will help a lot if we have that information.
So Louise, so what I learned from Mike and him working with Rich regarding orders is that we're kind of dealing with a paper system. And it's frankly, it's an antiquated system, and Mike is working on reviewing that whole process. So at least, like literally a paper goes to Rich's office, whether it's coming from the school, and then we determine at Rich's office, okay, does this go in the city pile or the district pile? And so part of the reworking and organizing this in a different way so we can better answer the question that you're asking and be able to monitor the workload, figure out a way to create a system where this is electronic so that we can sort things by bathroom, by windows, by flooring, by water issues, by water fountain issues, and then what's for the school, what's for the city, and be able to talk with Rich and say, hey, Rich, these things are still outstanding on the school side. And then with the city, hey, we made a request regarding an elevator 3 months ago. How are we doing? And the point that Rich is making is we actually submit things into their platform. And that's this platform, I believe that he's talking about, School Dude, but we don't have access to see what we put in. And so that's why Rich is saying he's talking to Sean about actually getting a report to kind of get the status. However, what we can control is doing a better job, at least electronically anyway, so it's not paper. And right now it's paper. So that we can just have, essentially, we can create the system on our side as we send it out. And we have a paper system now, and we're looking to move toward really an electronic system that's just kind of bring these things up to date so we can sort these things in the request that you made. Because we ask ourselves internally, we have principals like Dan who are asking and following up and saying, my elevator's not working, And, I've had Dan knows more about operational challenges in this building than we would ever need a principal to know about operationals and facility issues in a school building. It's honestly, it's really not fair to him to have this kind of stranglehold on what the facilities challenges are in his building, but he has to, because it's the only way. He can't stay on top of it if he doesn't know. But it's really because whether it's the city side or the district side, he's always having to push to get what he needs for his kids. So we're working at district office to try to rework this so that we can respond quicker to folks.
Yeah.
That would be
And
great.
I will say in Antonio's defense, like the elevators are a perfect example. There's two people in the state of Connecticut that have elevator contracts, Otis and Coney, and they're both not very responsive. So, we call him for the elevator, all he can do is call Coney, and then they give him the same runaround that we get, so oftentimes we're both sort of, chasing the same shadows.
So
I hope. Oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
Michelle. No, I just have a quick
I-
question. When the work orders come in and you have to decide what pile it goes to, who makes the decision as to which pile it goes into? Do we have a definitive list as to what's us, what's them?
Yes,
Is there any dispute, like as we put the work orders in, do they come back and say, that's not us, that's you? I'm just curious to know.
there's actually an antiquated agreement between the Board of Education and the city of Danbury that defines what is the Board of Ed's responsibility and what is the public building's responsibility. And I say antiquated because I think the agreement is from 1978 or 1989. But in that agreement, public buildings is responsible for all plumbing, HVAC, electrical, any major items like that. I can send a copy of that agreement, so everybody is aware of it. But it's something that we should really review with the city and look at updating, I'll say.
Yeah, I think it does go back to 79, and then I think it was refreshed. Honestly, it's and then it was refreshed in like 98, and I think that's like the current version that we're living with. So we're due.
Excellent. Okay,
Can we
great.
get into a new agreement?
What's that?
Can we get into a new agreement?
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
I will take a look at that. Michelle, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Just a comment. So I oversaw warranty at Heritage Hills, and that was challenging in itself. A lot of times we didn't have, again, the answers, the, responses from our trades. But as long as we communicated and let them know that we knew that they were waiting, that we were still addressing it, made all the difference. I would just literally call and say, I haven't forgotten you. And that meant a lot. I think, if we're giving it to the city and we have an antiquated system, it's kind of like, your photos going into the cloud and you just don't know. So even if I know we're really developing this parent, our site, our website, but even if there was something like, hey, we're excited, we're going to be addressing these issues or whatever, just to be able to somehow communicate that we haven't forgotten them, that we are working with the city, that we're looking to update our system. I think that would make a big difference to the parents, just a
I
thought.
agree. Yeah. And just the principals too, even if they could log into the system and just see, okay, I put this in 3 weeks ago, but Sean put a note in here, says part not available, that
Right.
would make, at least they've been heard, they've been acknowledged that this is something that needs to be addressed, as opposed to, a silence, which you wonder if, did anybody even see it? Yeah.
Right. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else with any questions or concerns? Oh, go ahead, Gladys.
Could I just do a comment? So I don't want to ask the question, and I know I'm not on the committee, so I'm waiting till the end of the meeting to ask my question. As we have these, and I think I asked over a year ago, could someone show us as a board what's the city obligations as far as fixing things, and what's the board obligation as far as fixing things? And we talked about the bathrooms and the AIS, Rogers Park, and the elevators and things. Those are important things for our young students. And my question is, we've been talking about this a year.
Yeah.
I know someone is doing a follow-up, but you don't wait 2 or 3 months to follow up to say to the city, listen, this is still not done. And I know there might be some special other type of things that they might have to do to fix things. But, if you really think about it, the bathroom, you don't want to sit all day in an adult and can't go to the bathroom. So how do you expect, our elementary students, our middle school students, and our high school students, and to go and get on the elevator and you have to go all around the building, even when you're young. That's a big project. So my final question is, you know, if things are not done within a timely fashion, at least a week or two, who gets back to the city and tell them, you know, we need to, what is holding this work order up? That's my question.
Or is there a way to back charge, to get the work done and then back charge the city and at least get it done? Because
Done.
that's what we would do in, you know, in a development and construction, we would, you know, have to
Mhm.
pull that and back charge them.
Yeah.
Right, so I
These are
don't,
all great recommendations.
right, and I think the city will tell you they hear from us enough about following up on outstanding projects, whether it's Jalbert, because if we don't get answers, we don't get movement. You know, the majority of the district is reaching out to Rich Jalbert, and so Rich has no choice but to follow up with the city. You know, the same is true with Mike now that he's here, and folks are following up with Mike. And frankly, no one, when you call Rich and you call Mike because you need an issue resolved, no one cares whether or not the city's supposed to fix it or the district's supposed to fix it. Folks just need it fixed. So they
Yes.
call the people who they have access to, and they call Mike and Rich, and that's why they know Sean by the first name, because they're calling him all the time. and Dan has so many facility challenges. Half the time he doesn't have to call us; he goes straight to the city, because you know his issues are just that unique, and that great just in terms of requests and issues at the building. And so I don't want folks to leave this meeting thinking that we're not calling and following up the city, because that's definitely happening. There are some unique situations where they can't come back, you know, because of parts for an elevator. I mean, frankly, we don't want to hear that you can't get the part for the elevator. We just need the elevator fixed.
Right.
Kind of given all of our compliance issues in the building, we have students who are hurt, students who rely on elevators to have access to different programming in the building. And so, you know, it's not ideal for us, but there are other situations quite frankly, we just wish things happen faster. And, you know, we'll continue to push on those things, but it's certainly not happening in many cases as fast as we would like.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Anything else, Mike, tonight?
That's all I got.
Great. All right, well, I want to thank, if there's nothing else, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Rich, thank you for keeping us updated. Mike, thank you so much for everything. Thank you, Mr. Donovan, for coming tonight and sharing some of the issues happening up at the high school. And of course, our superintendent. Thank you very much. And if we have nothing else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone.
Very nice. Oh, the motion.
I'll
Right.
second.
Thank you.
Thank
right,
you,
so-
Louisa.